Hi everybody, I'm Maddie, the founder of the Flexpo event series, and I'm joined today by David Blackburn, who is the Chief People Officer of the Financial Services Compensation Scheme and an HR icon. I'd like to thank you, David, initially, because the FSCS have sponsored Flexpo from the off. So they joined us last year as a headline sponsor, and they kept their partnership and their commitment to us through this year as well. They also get involved with us on the other event that we run, the Flexpo Business HR Leader event. So thank you very much for your support, David.
Absolutely my pleasure. Lovely to see you.
And you. And looking so floral and marvellous. I always feel like I need to dress up a bit when I speak to you. So I would just like to start by talking about why is flexible working so important to you and to the organisation?
Flexible working is absolutely central to our approach at the Financial Services Compensation Scheme. And we have always said that every job in the organisation is flexible. That is our starting point. Not that you need to write a business case or make a formal application in order to convince us. Actually, every job is flexible, and we've always believed that. And so even going into the current lockdown, 8 out of 9 people will be exercising some sort of flexible working arrangement within the organisation. And the reason I think that then that is important is that what it allows us is to create a culture and environment where people can be the best version of themselves. People work better when they can be themselves. That's one of the, that's not my quote actually, I've stolen that from Stonewall. And, but it's really true. So actually our day-to-day lives are, place so many varying demands on us. And we will always want to ensure that people have the appropriate work-life balance in the organisation, and we know from the feedback of our employees that that is hugely valued. Oh, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Oh, glad you told me that before I carried on.
Yeah.
Thank you. And can we, you and I caught up during the lockdown and during that period, and I understand it was quite an easy shift for you as an organisation to continue functioning. You've not had a single day where you haven't been able to deliver what you need to deliver as an organisation, which is incredible. But you've actually gone a step further than that, haven't you? I think you've redefined Flex as an organisation, even though you're already winning awards for how you operate. My understanding is that you've actually evolved even further. Can you talk to us a bit more about that?
Yes. So, I mean, the great thing was, you're absolutely right. I mean, that actually we haven't lost a day's production during the course of the crisis. And that's against a backdrop of incredibly high claims volumes. In fact, at this point in the year, we've already processed as many claims as we processed for the whole of 2019-20, and we haven't seen our current work in progress is something like 15,000 claims, and that is we haven't seen levels like this since the financial crash in 2008, 2009. And we were able to do that, yes, because flexible working is really at the heart of what we do as an organisation. But also what we've recognised is that we need to continue to evolve those principles. So we've provided lots of additional support to employees to maintain their well-being, their engagement and their connection to the organisation during the crisis. But as we now start to think about building back better, and what that might look like, and I have to keep correcting myself that it's not returning to work because we've never stopped working, it's returning to our new environment and what that looks like. This is very hot off the press, and one of our new ideas is around, we used to say, we felt that you needed to spend, that it was really important that employees spend a reasonable amount of time with their teams, and I do think that. So I think that whilst flexibility is really important and we've all been working from home, I think for lots of people they would recognise that the culture of an organisation is so much about the human interaction and the environment in which we work. So we've tried to define what do we mean by reasonable, and I'm a great one, as you know, for I like really simple ideas that are easy to understand. And so our new approach, which we will start, which we're about to consult our organisation on, is our new 40-40 rule, which is 40% of our people 40% of the time. So in a normal work
within the building.
within the building. So what we mean is that, you know, in a normal working week of 5 days, we would expect you to be in the office 2 days. You know, you could decide that you might want to be in the office more than that, but what that allows us to do is to implement social distancing guidance to make the building safe. But also, I think we've come to the place that actually this is less about our response to the crisis. We have proved that the organisation can work successfully remotely, that we can do this flexibly at any level in the organisation. And so actually that's something that we want to hang on to. And we know that some people will say, actually, I'd like to spend the majority of my time at home, and we want to be able to enable that.
That's really powerful. So although you have the 40-40 rule, if you might have somebody that wants to be in 5 days, somebody wants to be out 5 days, you'll accommodate everything on a case-by-case basis.
I think that we, I think that we want to give people some parameters.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that we, even though we're relatively, you know, we're only 220 staff, I think we want some sort of guiding principles. I've always said that in all the years I've talked about flexible working. I don't think you need a ream of policies. We've got a one-page set of statements as our guidance. I think I think we would want to think long and hard about people asking, can I work permanently from home? Because that just brings that's a different, I could get into the employment law, insurance liability and all of that stuff. It does change when your home becomes your permanent place of work. That's a slightly different discussion, but okay. So that's something we're thinking about.
Oh right, okay, thank you.
We're exploring what our response might be to that. I don't know yet right now.
But you're very human focused as an organisation, aren't you? So I think you've said to me before as well that actually a lot of your flex workers, it's not officially that, you know, they don't necessarily have to go through the official guidelines, but actually you're really human focused. So it's a conversation with your line manager.
Absolutely. That's probably 95% of our flexible working arrangements. And I think that's also why flexibility has been so successful, because we have made it very accessible. And I think, as I said at the start, that if your starting point is that every job is flexible, then I don't need you to, you know, complete a form or you know, come to HR and say, oh, I want to change my working pattern. Because if it's about, I want to condense my working hours, I want to stagger my start times, I want to do a couple of days at home, all of those, as far as we're concerned, if it works for you and your line manager and it works for the team and it doesn't have a detrimental impact on, you know, our customer service, then we're happy. So the number of people who formally come to us to say, I want to do 4 days in 5 and thingy, you know, formally to actually change that and make that a contractual change is very small.
Which is great, because that just shows that they don't feel the need to do that. They're not concerned about there being any kind of going back on agreements or that kind of, you've got a very high trust culture. I think we've talked about this before.
It's like you've read my mind. The trust is absolutely central to making this work, and I think it's really interesting. I was sharing with our board only this week some of the findings from the Adecco Group's latest white paper, which is a study of 8,000 people working more than 20 hours a week in 8 countries. And one of the things is really around the what they're calling the EQ leader. What does that mean? It means that actually employees, for this to really work, you have to have very high trust. You have to have high trust. You can't be, you know, those days of evaluating somebody's contribution by their presence will have gone. You know, I mean, they were already going, and I think that you know, we've spent a lot of time as an organisation talking about trust. And when we first started talking about it, I think that the executive team were a bit like, oh, David's a crazy person. What's he talking about all of the trust stuff for? But I think actually by calling it out and saying, you know, accountability is one of our values. We trust you. We trust you to get on and do the things that you're supposed to do. And we are outcome focused when in our performance management. So it's about how much I see you physically in the office. You could be sitting physically in the office and being completely non-productive. So yeah, I think that's been a massive enabler of our organisational success in this space.
Yeah, definitely, and makes you a great place to work, because who doesn't want to work for an employer that they feel trusts them. Before I leave you, can we also talk? I mean, this is a non-formal thing, but just to showcase, what a great organisation you guys are. I know you did some formal things, like you did. I think you did a home working allowance and that kind of thing when this all kind of kicked off, the lockdown period. But you personally also did something quite cool, didn't you, to keep the team engaged?
Well, it was right at the very beginning when we thought that this wasn't going to last very long. I sang a few numbers. Well, actually, the first number I recorded, my husband, Lawrence, long suffering, recorded me singing was "We'll Meet Again," and which we then sort of posted. We created a SharePoint site of people doing things at home during the lockdown. So people were sending pictures of their children and their dogs and their cats and out running and how they were keeping fit. And then I decided that I was going to commit to singing my way through the alphabet, musical theatre alphabet. So, so a number from Annie, a number from Bye Bye Birdie, a number from Carousel, a number from Dear Evan Hansen, very contemporary, a number from Evita, number from Follies. And then I was like, oh my God, this is going to go on for absolute ever. So I sort of stopped. But I did more recently sing the American national anthem for Independence Day on July the 4th. So
On where?
But July the 4th, because American Independence Day, July the 4th.
Oh, cool.
So the weekend that was coming up. It was also, of course, most importantly, it was the weekend that the pubs reopened. So actually, that's what I was celebrating, was the independence to go out and have a nice glass of wine somewhere.
As were most people. David, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure speaking to you, and I look forward to catching up with you very soon.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Take care, Maddie. Bye-bye.
Thank you.